What I'm talking about is technology, but technology is not going to be the focus of this talk. And I'm going to start with Mavis, the story of Mavis. She is the grandmother of one of my very good friends and colleague, and she passed away recently. The very first time I met Mavis, it was in palliative care. She was bedridden, she was confined to her bed, and she was always confused about where she was and why she was there. And as I learned a little bit more about her life, I was really shocked to find out that just 2 years prior, she was able to live at home by herself. You see, Mavis had dementia, but with the care of a dedicated team of people, she was able to live an independent lifestyle in the family home that she had lived in for the last 45 years. And what that means is that she had carers visiting her every day. They will bring her medications, they'll go grocery shopping, they will clean, and they'll go in, they'll turn on the lights, they'll open the curtains to let the natural lights in and open the windows to get some fresh air. But the moment they left, Mavis would go, turn off all the lights, shut the windows, and close all the curtains. And then when the carers came back the next day, they'll find the room dark and gloomy, and they will turn on all the lights, they'll open all the curtains, and then Mavis will turn them off again. And every time this happens, it agitates her greatly. And eventually, she got so frustrated that she refused to let the carers into her house. And that meant she stopped getting her medication, no one was there to clean, and then when she had a fall, there was no one there to find her. So Mavis ended up in the hospital, where her condition deteriorated very rapidly. And the reason for that is because Mavis saw the lights, the natural lights. We will all do the same thing. Like if we visit one of our relatives and we see it's a dark, gloomy house, we probably want to have the place more well lit. But from her perspective, because of her dementia, she saw the lights as a source of blinding pain. And it's that the lack of that particular awareness led to that conflict. And had the carers understood what the world was from her perspective, then she might very well be alive today. But Mavis's story, the most tragic part is that she's not alone in this. There are 56 million people in the world living with dementia, and that figure is expected to rise to about 135 million by 2050. The global burden of disease for dementia is about $600 billion currently, and that too is expected to rise to over $1 trillion by 2050. Dementia is a chronic progressive condition that defies cure, and it is the cause of death in 1 in 3 people over the age of 65. And that is the true face of dementia. It is not a normal part of aging. But because there is no cure, what we can instead focus on is improving the quality of lives of people living with dementia. And one of the most important things that contributes to that is how can we improve the quality of care they receive? And that is the problem that our partners at Alzheimer's Australia Victoria came to us.
Okay, so traditionally we deliver dementia care education through PowerPoint presentations, workshops, or get people to talk about their experiences. And one of the key understandings we want people to have is person-centered care. And we've been teaching it from an intellectual point of view for the last 20 years, and it's been failing. People are not delivering person-centered care. So I think this approach is more about an empathic approach where we're asking people to feel what it's like to have dementia. And with that, we're hoping that we'll get a change in practice because they really get what a difference it makes in how you approach a person.
So the problem that they came to us was how can we create empathy? And in particular, how can we possibly show someone like you and I, who is, I think I'm safe in assuming that no one here has dementia. How do you show people like you and I what it might be like to have dementia? And in the past, we as a technology company, we have focused on solving problems with technologies, and we solve problems like building virtual simulations for use in fMRI. We worked with Google to create an interface for users and developers to gain access to the most sophisticated sensors ever fitted to a mobile device. And we have built simulators with NASA, which is currently training their astronauts in Houston. But in our opinion, what the most rewarding and possibly the most challenging problem that we have ever had a hand in solving is a problem of empathy. So what we did with our partners, Alzheimer's Australia Victoria, is the virtual dementia experience. So over a period of 6 months, we engaged in very intense R&D. Basically, we worked with the clinicians, we worked with the professionals, the carers, families, and also we interfaced with people with dementia directly, so we could help recreate the experience using gaming technologies and virtual reality. So what it is that currently the virtual dementia experience is in a facility where it is projected onto a wall, 10 meters by 2.5 meters, that you interact with using just your hands. And what you have on screen is a virtual environment rendered in real time, as you would in a video game. And then that transports you into the shoes of someone living with dementia, and you see the world through their eyes. And over here on screen, those bright spots there are actually through the eyes of the normal person. That would appear just as windows that you can see out. But for someone with dementia, like Mavis, she saw it as a gloomy mess, a source of blinding pain, as I call it. And what this virtual simulation does is that it takes you through the daily routines, a morning routine of someone living with dementia, based on true stories. And you experience the world, the cognitive disturbances, the perceptual disturbances, from the perspective of someone with dementia. And we also have high-impact scenarios like this. This is a true story of a man mistaking a razor blade for a toothbrush. But on the lighter side of things, we can show people not just the horrors that dementia might bring, is how can we make a difference in improving the lives of people with dementia. So here we have a bathroom, and then as experienced through the eyes of someone with dementia, it looks like this. And you can see how this is a confusing, dangerous, and intimidating environment. But it's a bit washed out, but you can probably see it the one's closer anyway, that by doing simple things, like having different colors for your wall and floor tile, you can really make a difference in how people with dementia might be able to engage with the environment. And currently, this workshop has been delivered to about 3,000 people since its launch in 2013. And very recently, we have a chance to record responses from a couple participants. And let's hear from them.
Wonderful to see someone who usually would be so agitated and so anxious, maybe even screaming, to be sitting there and smiling. And it's because we just changed the noise level and we changed the impact of the environment.
I went back and I went to the manager and I said, everyone here must be a part of that. I wanted everybody to let the staff be a part of this VDE because it's just so important that the staff experience what the residents experience as people with dementia.
The day after we saw the VDE, we were showering a lady, another PCA and I, and she was refusing to go into the bathroom and quite frightened, and I realised instantly sort of, I know this situation. And so I asked the other PCA to go and find her glasses, and brought back the glasses, put them on her, and she was just like, wow, wow. And I was really touched. I was really touched, and she said, oh, could I have a hug?
She's quite adorable. So we're very proud to say that about less than a month ago, actually, our academic evaluation wrapped up. So Alzheimer's Australia Victoria contracted Swinburne University of Technology to carry out an evaluation on the effectiveness of this new training approach, because this really is the first time technologies like this has been used in aged care. And understandably, people are a bit anxious about whether it's actually effective. And we're proud to say that it has been effective, And we not only did the virtual dementia experience deliver the same educational outcome, it was also able to significantly increase empathic understanding. Over twofold, in fact. And we're seeing a transition from people basically rote listing what kind of changes. So they go, all right, we need to change the color of the floor to make it more contrast. We need to change the color of the floors. But they don't note why they need to do that. They don't really think about it from the perspective of someone with dementia. Whereas someone who has gone through the VDE, they were able to list that, but not just saying, well, because the textbooks told me so. It's that because people with dementia, they can't clearly differentiate between the wall and the floor, and having a contrasting color helps them see and makes environments safer. This is the kind of change that we're seeing in how people communicate their knowledge. And we are actually going to take this particular product, well, I call it product, but it's really just a suite of technologies, and we're taking this to a number of different places. And in particular, we're representing Australia in the hotly contested Microsoft Magic Cup. So hopefully we'll bring home a couple wins. But probably the most rewarding thing from our perspective is the Senate recommendation. So the Senate Committee on Community Affairs visited the VDE last year. And after visiting the VDE, they published a commendation recommending every state and territory in Australia create a facility like the Dementia Learning Centre in which the VDE is housed and install VDE there. And currently, the VDE operates only in Melbourne, and it is a part of a booked out workshop that has been running since 2013. And our next step is to take it to this new technology, this virtual reality technology that you're seeing here. It's a little bit cropped off. For those of you who's interested in what it is, you can go to SBS website, look at SBS Insights, and the episode is called Dancing with Dementia. So you'll be able to figure out what it is. And that over there is the technology that is powering this new age of innovation, and it's called virtual reality. So what is virtual reality? Virtual reality is a class of technologies that allows us to supplant users' perceptions, usually the visual ones, with a virtual image. And this has been done since the 80s in government and military laboratories, and also some universities as well, but they're primarily a defense-focused approach. But it wasn't until 2012 when this gentleman, the awesomely named Palmer Luckey, founded the Oculus VR. So in 2012, he founded Oculus VR to take to Kickstarter. At the time, he is a designer at the University of Southern California, and where he was working with a bunch of researchers on a helmet-mounted display. So basically the idea is that you take the phone, the screen from the phone, that's a speaker. But imagine your smartphone and you were to tape that to your face. That was the first design that Palmer had. And he went to Kickstarter and said, hey, look, I'm going to sell you this thing for a few $100s. Will you give me money for it? He asked for $250,000. And by the end of the campaign, he had raised nearly 10 times the amount he asked for, so $2.4 million. And the most impressive thing is that about half of it came in the first 36 hours. But just one guy doesn't make it a revolution. So this is the kind of technology that's just emerging. So we heard about Oculus, but Sony's throwing their weight behind it. We have Google throwing their weight behind it, and Microsoft. But that's not just a tech giant. So if we step through to the mobile phone manufacturers, we have Samsung, we have Google again, HTC, and LG. And recently, Apple also made a number of really interesting acquisitions. And that means every who's who in technology has basically got their skin in the game. They say, we believe in the fact that VR is probably going to change how we consume experiences the same way that mobile has changed how we communicate. So that's at stake. And we're seeing numerous applications from VR, we've seen promotional applications for major blockbusters like Age of Ultron, Pacific Rim, where you can go on the Samsung Gear VR store and download these apps. We have promotional applications for Mercedes, where you're able to they transport you into the passenger seat and driver's seat of the latest Mercedes-Benz. And also we have an entire industry freaking out over the possibility of virtual reality sex. Just think about the possibility for a second. Dramatic pause. But let's take a step back as well. The technology that underlies the virtual dementia experience is really, fundamentally, it is the same thing as what is driving this new wave of consumer experiences, like VR sex. But as you can undoubtedly notice that when we use the technology to solve these problems, sometimes it will be for how do we promote this particular product, how do we promote this particular experience. But at the same time, we can use that to solve problems. And that problem comes in many forms. And when we can really use that technology to solve problems that will lead to tangible and significant impact in the lives of people, that's what I call problem worth solving. And there is one particular technology in the field of AR and VR that's emerging just from beyond the technology horizon, and it's called the Microsoft Hololens.
Look around. Technology is all around us. We use it in every aspect of our lives. It enables us to do amazing things. But what if we could go further? What if we could go beyond the screen? Where your digital world is blended with your real world. Now we can. This is the world with holograms. What will they enable us to do? New ways to visualize our work.
I have an idea for the fuel tank.
New ways to share ideas with each other.
How are things going your end?
I just put the images in OneDrive.
Perfect.
More immersive ways to play. New ways to teach and learn.
So put the new trap in the place of the old one.
Now what?
And tighten here and here.
New ways to collaborate and explore the places we've never been.
Look at this formation. Let's take a closer look.
And new ways to create the things we imagine. Because when you change the way you see the world, you can change the world you see. This is Microsoft HoloLens.
A disclaimer, I do not work for Microsoft. I'm not being paid to show this video. But as developers, up until this point, we have the ability to show, using virtual reality technology, something that is entirely virtual, or use augmented reality technologies like Google Glasses to overlay images on top of a real one. But it wasn't until this new generation technology, what Microsoft calls the holographic computers, that we're able to achieve mixed reality, where we have virtual objects occupying the same space as real ones. And this is, in our opinion, not just as consumers of technology. I'm a massive geek, right? And if I wasn't a massive geek, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be doing what I do. And it excites us greatly, not just because that we're consumers of technology, it's because we believe that this thing has tremendous potentials in helping us solve problems, and in particular, problem worth solving. We saw at the Microsoft Build conference.
And right in the action.
Now, what if Darren has things to do around the house? He shouldn't be confined to watching just on one wall. He should be able to take his entertainment with him anywhere and remain
Has anyone seen this, by the way?
as he does it.
Hands up.
Yeah, so all I need to say is follow me.
One in the back. So this is really cool.
Now wherever I go in my house, my entertainment tags along. All right.
And games, this is at E3, so Electronic Entertainment Expo, where you're able to play Minecraft like this.
I see Lydia way up there.
As I run around and play, Sax can easily navigate and manipulate the world using his voice and his hands. He can walk around the hologram, pan around for different viewpoints, and even look inside.
Let's follow Lydia around for a bit.
So this is
Follow
really
player.
cool. But, and there's always a but, how do we use that to solve problems we're solving? Problems that have significant social impact on, and could improve the lives of people. What about, say, surgery? Something that I found out not too long ago, actually, is that how primitive we currently do brain surgery. Are there any neurosurgeons here in the house? So what's really interesting is the fact that over the last 20 years, we haven't really fundamentally improved the way we do brain surgery. And more, what we're doing is what's something called minimally invasive procedures. A minimally invasive procedure simply means that you don't just cut people open. One of the most common forms called radiosurgery. Basically, they will have a beam of radiation going through your body, but each individual beam doesn't have enough energy to do anything. But what happens is you intersect multiple beams, and where they intersect, it destroys the tissue there. And you can do the same thing with focus ultrasound as well. And that has particular application in brain surgery, where in what's called microcranioscopy, what happens is they take a drill, rather than cutting open your head like in-house, we will see all the time, they literally take a buzzsaw and go, and they cut a chunk off your skull to get to it. But what this minimally invasive version does is that it drills a tiny hole, or a number of tiny holes, and then it allows the surgeon to operate on your brain using basically what amounts to a really, really fancy needle. But while you're doing that, what the surgeons need to do is that they have to reconstruct. So you can see how they're not looking at what they're doing, they're looking at a screen. Because what's happening here is that they have to reconstruct. The only way for them to see inside your skull while you're doing this procedure is not by looking at it, it's by using things like ultrasound. Because you can't even see what it is that you're doing. They use things like ultrasound or MRIs, and you see a series of two-dimensional images, and you're trying to reconstruct in real time a 3D model of the patient's brain. And the thing is, when you're doing this, it takes tremendous amount of effort and mental resources to do that. I don't know about you, I'd much rather my surgeon, if they have to operate on my head, to focus on my head. And this amounts to basically what my friend was telling me. It's like threading a needle that you can't see. And at the same time, if you miss it by just 1 millimeter, you could leave the person permanently disabled or dead. So it's a very high-stake procedure. So what if the technology gives us a way to visualize in front of the surgeon, in 3D volume, what they are doing, basically allow them to see through the person's brain and see exactly how deep their probes are going, how deep that needle is, and where they need to go. And that's the power that HoloLens brings. And we're already seeing this technology changing how we might be able to educate the next generation of doctors.
Today we use a combination of cadavers and medical illustrations to teach students anatomy. This is a curriculum that hasn't drastically changed in over 100 years because there simply hasn't been another way. The mixed reality of the Hololens has the potential to revolutionize this education by bringing 3D content into the real world. Now, one of the biggest challenges for students learning anatomy is understanding the body in 3 dimensions and how all the different systems fit together. Using holograms, we can easily separate and focus in on individual systems. For example, we can focus in on the femur, and students can immediately see some of the types of fractures they may one day encounter in the clinic. Now, I can leverage all of these new capabilities while maintaining the important connection with my students. When we're both wearing a HoloLens, I can see what they're looking at, what they're interacting with. I can assess their progress, and they can communicate with me and each other naturally. For example, I can see if Michelle has a question in class, or whether Gwen has a question while learning remotely. Now, obviously, a cadaver doesn't move. This makes it difficult to see the way a living body actually works. HoloLens doesn't have this limitation. Systems can be animated to easily see how things function. Let's take a look at the center of the cardiovascular system, the heart. It's an amazing organ. In reality, it's about the size of your fist. With HoloLens, we can easily scale up the heart to let students see minute details. We can even see inside the heart to see the valves in action. This is a new way of seeing things, and it has the potential to help students understand the structure and physiology of the body in a way that's just not possible today. Now, what you've just seen is a vision.
So, we've got lots of really cool stuff. But the cool stuff is not really what interests us. Sure, it excites us, but I want to invite everyone to think about the fact that we have all these technology around us that we have right now, and there will be so many more to come. And every time there's a new technology added to that repertoire, it's basically giving us a new tool with which we can use to solve problems. But in particular, I would like everyone to think about how can we solve problems worth solving using these technologies. Thank you very much.